tailwind happening, and that's a stablecoin issuance that's been accelerating over the last several months. And that bodes well for the entire ecosystem of crypto because you've got these stablecoins that are running on blockchains like Ethereum.
For years, the idea of a global digital ID system sounded like something out of dystopian fiction, a concept whispered about in the corners of online forums and dismissed by the mainstream as paranoia. But as we move deeper into 2025, it's no longer fiction. Governments, tech giants, and global institutions are openly building the infrastructure for a unified digital identity layer. What's shocking, however, is the growing evidence that Hedera Hashgraph, HBAR, may be the invisible engine powering this entire transformation. Most people still think of Hedera as just another altcoin, an enterprise blockchain project focused on speed, energy efficiency, and corporate use cases. But beneath that corporate polish lies something far more consequential. Hedera isn't just fast. It's governed by some of the world's most powerful entities. Google, IBM, Standard Bank, Boeing, LG, and more. Together, these companies form the Hedera Governing Council, a consortium designed to control the network's direction and approve major integrations. When you look closely, the same names that are shaping the future of digital ID and Web3 infrastructure are sitting right there on Hedera's board. The World Economic Forum, WEF, has been vocal about the need for a global digital ID system as part of its vision for the fourth industrial revolution. Their stated goal is to connect everything, people, devices, transactions, under a trusted digital identity framework. Now, what kind of network could securely and efficiently handle billions of authenticated interactions per second with immutability, transparency, and compliance? The answer fits Hedera's architecture perfectly. Unlike traditional blockchains, Hedera uses Hashgraph consensus, a system that offers near-instant finality, extremely low energy usage, and predictable costs. Ideal for something like a digital identity ledger that needs to operate globally and comply with enterprise-level standards. That's why speculation around Hedera's connection to digital ID initiatives has exploded since 2023, especially after Hedera joined the WEF's Digital Trust Initiative, which focuses specifically on decentralized ID, DID, standards, and verifiable credentials. Dig a little deeper, and the picture becomes even more unsettling. In 2024, several reports surfaced that Hedera's network was being tested for verifiable credential frameworks, tools that allow users to prove who they are or what they're authorized to do without revealing all their data. These systems are the backbone of the One ID for everything model banking, healthcare, travel, and social services, all connected through a digital identity tied to a distributed ledger. So where does the rumor come from that Hedera might be the hidden backbone for this system? It stems from Hedera's strategic positioning. Almost no other project combines enterprise governance, regulatory compliance, and permission public hybrid capabilities quite like it. The Digital Identity Foundation, DIF, the Trust over IP Foundation, 2IP, and several pilot programs under the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, have referenced distributed ledger technology for managing identity. And guess what? Hedera's partners, from IBM to the Linux Foundation, are directly involved in those efforts. It's the perfect alignment. The WEF wants a digital ID for every citizen. Corporations want interoperable data and compliance. Governments want trackable, fraud-proof identity systems. And Hedera offers the ideal infrastructure. Fast, scalable, green, and governed by the same global actors pushing for digital transformation. That's where the hidden alliance theory emerges. Some analysts argue this isn't just coincidence. It's design. Hedera may have been built from the beginning as a public-facing layer for a private global identity network. That would explain its council's corporate diversity, its integration with trusted computing systems, and its unique emphasis on governance transparency. Whether or not Hedera is officially behind the digital ID rollout, its technology fits the profile better than any other. And with the digital public infrastructure, DPI movement gaining traction across G20 nations, the stage is set. The same countries pushing CBDCs are also testing digital ID frameworks, and many are using networks like Hedera for pilot programs that never make the headlines. The question now isn't whether the world will move toward a unified ID system. That's already happening. The question is, Will HBAR holders wake up to the reality that the token they hold may power the very infrastructure of tomorrow's identity economy? For better or worse. If you start tracing the lines between Hedera's corporate governance network and the global digital identity agenda, a clear picture begins to form, one that's both sophisticated and unsettling. At first glance, Hedera seems like a well-meaning enterprise blockchain project emphasizing speed, fairness, and environmental sustainability. But beneath the marketing language, Hedera's governance and partnerships overlap with some of the most influential institutions pushing the digital ID and digital trust agenda worldwide. Let's start with the Hedera Governing Council. Each of its 39 members represents a titan in its field: Google, IBM, Boeing, LG, Standard Bank, FIS, the global payments giant, and the London School of Economics, among others. Each of these entities has either active or stated interest in digital identity, blockchain verification, or national digital infrastructure initiatives. For example, IBM has long championed self-sovereign identity, SSI, through its collaboration with the Decentralized Identity Foundation, DIF, and the Trust over IP Foundation, 2IP. Both organizations are central to designing frameworks for how digital IDs can interact safely across borders and platforms. IBM's seat on Hedera's council isn't just symbolic. It connects Hedera's network to IBM's real-world identity R&D, particularly around verifiable credentials and enterprise compliance. Meanwhile, Google's involvement hints at the data and authentication layer of this puzzle. As the world's largest identity broker through its login systems, email accounts, and device ecosystems, Google controls an unprecedented amount of user verification data. Now imagine that kind of power integrated with a distributed ledger capable of timestamping, verifying, and authenticating billions of transactions per second, without revealing private data. That's the kind of synergy that could turn a project like Hedera into a universal trust layer for global identity systems. Then there's Standard Bank, Africa's largest banking group, also sitting on the Hedera Council. This is where the speculation deepens. Africa has become the testing ground for many digital public infrastructure, DPI projects led by the World Bank, IMF, and United Nations Development Program, UNDP. These programs are introducing digital ID frameworks tied to financial inclusion goals. Standard Bank's presence connects Hedera's technology directly to these initiatives, many of which align with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. SDG 16.9 provide legal identity for all, including birth registration, by 2030. The overlap isn't accidental. It's structural. Now add the World Economic Forum, WEF, into the mix. Hedera is an official WEF partner, frequently featured in reports on sustainability, tokenization, and digital trust infrastructure. In 2022, Hedera joined the WEF's Digital Trust Initiative, a task force exploring how to standardize digital identity, data ownership, and verification in Web3 ecosystems. The WEF explicitly stated that its goal is to create the global architecture for trustworthy digital interaction. That phrase, global architecture, appears again and again in WEF materials, and it eerily mirrors Hedera's design philosophy: a governed public network that ensures trust through transparency and consensus. This alignment isn't just ideological. It's technical. The WEF's framework for digital identity relies on three core pillars: trust, interoperability, and verifiability, each of which Hedera's architecture directly supports. Hedera's Hashgraph consensus offers real-time transaction finality, vital for instant identity verification. Its Gossip About Gossip protocol ensures global data synchronization without bottlenecks, and its Hedera Token Service, HTS, can issue and manage identity-linked tokens or credentials at scale. But the real smoking gun may lie in Hedera's work with Avery Dennison's Atma.io platform, which tracks billions of physical items across global supply chains using Hedera's ledger. While the project is focused on sustainability and traceability, it quietly proves Hedera's ability to handle billions of verifiable records per day, precisely what a global identity network would require. Each product on Atma.io is essentially a micro-credential with verifiable authenticity, the same logic that underpins digital identity credentials. And that's only one example. In 2024, ServiceNow, a digital workflow company used by major corporations and governments, announced an integration with Hedera for digital record verification. The aim? To provide tamper-proof audit trails for certifications and authorizations, a direct step toward identity verification. Around the same time, Swirlds Labs, the original creator of Hashgraph, began developing Guardian, a platform for digital measurement, reporting, and verification of environmental assets. Again, leveraging identity-linked credentials to ensure data provenance. So, how does this all tie back to the global digital ID system that so many fear, the one that could tie financial access, medical data, and social privileges to a single traceable credential? Consider this. The WEF's Great Reset framework lists digital identity as the foundation of all future global governance systems. The UN's SDGs provide the moral and developmental cover for ID rollout, framed as inclusion. The World Bank's ID4D program is funding infrastructure for national digital IDs across developing nations. And the IMF, in coordination with the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, is pushing central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, that would require trusted ID verification at every level. All these initiatives need a secure, enterprise-grade distributed ledger to function at scale, one that satisfies governments and corporations alike. Hedera fits that profile better than any public blockchain in existence. The logic is simple yet chilling. By participating in climate traceability, financial inclusion, and digital governance, Hedera is quietly laying the pipes for a single programmable identity layer. Whether that identity is tied to carbon credits, healthcare access, or payments doesn't matter. It's all one interoperable system, built on trust. When viewed through this lens, BAR's low volatility and quiet corporate presence make perfect sense. It's not meant for hype cycles. It's being groomed for infrastructure-level adoption. The retail investor sees a utility token. The institutions see a compliance-grade foundation for digital society. And that's why, if this alliance is real, it's not just about crypto, it's about control. The kind that's invisible until it's everywhere. By the time you start connecting Hedera's digital ID infrastructure to central bank digital currency, CBDC, research, and global data compliance systems, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. The conversation isn't just about efficiency or innovation anymore. It's about who controls verification and access in a future that runs entirely on digital credentials. Look closely at the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, Innovation Hub projects. These are the pilot programs testing interoperability between CBDCs, tokenized assets, and compliance systems across borders. BIS has repeatedly said that for CBDCs to function globally, they must integrate privacy-preserving digital ID frameworks that meet regulatory standards like KYC, Know Your Customer, and AML, anti-money laundering. Now here's where Hedera quietly appears. While it's rarely mentioned by name in BIS reports, many of its governing council partners like Standard Bank, FIS, and IBM are direct participants in those same BIS and World Bank programs. The World Bank's ID4D, Identification for Development initiative, which funds digital ID systems in over 40 developing countries, runs on the same foundational principles that Hedera's tech is built to serve: trust, transparency, and verifiable credentials. The overlap is uncanny. Think of how it all fits together. A national digital ID confirms who you are. That ID gets tied to your bank account or mobile wallet. The central bank issues digital currency that can only move through verified IDs. Every payment, every credential, every piece of data, verified on a ledger that's publicly auditable but enterprise-controlled. That's Hedera's design to the letter. It's no accident that Hedera markets itself as a trust layer for the internet. In a world of programmable money and AI-managed economies, identity becomes the master key, and whoever provides that key infrastructure holds enormous power. HBAR isn't just another token. It's potentially the backbone for digital identity enforcement at scale, quietly standardized across financial systems. Even the recent collaborations with governments and NGOs on sustainability and data integrity fit the pattern. These projects establish the pretext: environmental tracking, carbon accounting, ESG compliance for mass credentialization. You can't measure carbon output or energy use at a personal or corporate level without first verifying who is acting. The same digital ID logic applies, just rebranded under green governance. And that's how it spreads. Not through conspiracy, but through consensus. Everyone wants a safer, cleaner, more efficient world, but no one asks what happens when identity becomes programmable, revocable, or restricted. That's where Hedera's role grows both fascinating and frightening. Because unlike Bitcoin's open chaos or Ethereum's decentralized sprawl, Hedera was built for order, the kind governments love. So when you see the headlines about digital public infrastructure, trust frameworks, or verifiable sustainability, remember, the real system isn't being built on top of Hedera. It's being built with it. If you've been in this space long enough, you know that the biggest shifts never start with headlines. They start with quiet partnerships, silent infrastructure rollouts, and pilot programs that suddenly become permanent. Hedera's story is a perfect example of that pattern. What began as an enterprise-focused blockchain designed for speed and security has evolved into something far more powerful, a foundational identity layer for a new kind of digital order. It's not about speculation or token price anymore. It's about infrastructure control. HBAR sits at the crossroads of government-backed innovation and decentralized technology, a contradiction that's intentional, not accidental. Ask yourself, why is a public ledger governed by some of the most powerful institutions on Earth, from Google and IBM to Standard Bank and the London School of Economics, pushing a model of transparency that's selectively visible? Why are global policy groups, including the World Bank, IMF, and BIS, quietly aligning their digital public infrastructure frameworks with systems that mirror Hedera's architecture? It's not coincidence. It's coordination. And it's happening faster than anyone predicted. As 2025 unfolds, the convergence between digital ID, CBDCs, and tokenized assets is becoming the backbone of what economists are now calling the multipolar digital economy, a world where data replaces oil and identity replaces currency. In that world, Hedera doesn't just benefit, it defines the trust rails. Governments can issue verifiable credentials, banks can validate every transaction, and global corporations can maintain compliance at the speed of light. All while the average citizen barely understands the system they've been integrated into. That's the paradox of innovation. It promises empowerment while quietly building mechanisms of control. The same infrastructure that can give unbanked populations access to global finance can also restrict that access with a single toggle of a policy switch. And Hedera, with its governance council structure and permission logic, is uniquely positioned to sit right in that middle, the balance point between public good and global oversight. So, what does this mean for HBAR holders and observers? It means the real value of Hedera may not lie in the market price, but in its political and infrastructural positioning. When the new digital ID frameworks go mainstream, tied to banking, healthcare, travel, and citizenship, the systems running in the background will determine who participates and who doesn't. And that's why it's crucial to pay attention now, before it's too late to ask questions. Follow the partnerships, trace the council members, read the white papers buried under innovation policy. Every clue points to a coordinated plan, one that could redefine what decentralization even means in the years ahead. If you hold HBAR, study what it's really connected to. If you don't, understand what's being built before the switch flips, because when the global ID system goes live, there won't be a second opt-in. Stay awake, stay curious, stay early.